we're joined by Taulby Roach, President and CEO of Bi-State Development, to talk about a major transit project that could reshape how people move around St. Louis. Bus Rapid Transit, or BRT, is designed to bring faster, more reliable, high-capacity service to the city, similar to light rail, but a lot more affordable. And right now, the public has a huge role to play in choosing this final route. So thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Mercedes.
Good morning.
Really good to be here.
Yes. Okay. So for viewers who may not be familiar, we've done a lot of stories on it, but some people may not know what exactly is the Bus Rapid Transit and how is it different from just a regular Metro bus?
So it's still really high quality, good density transit, but of course it's a little bit more affordable than Metrolink. What we found was Metrolink was a little on the expensive side, so we're trying to come up with an alternative that makes sense for the public.
Well, and as you just mentioned, it's designed to function like a light rail at a lower cost. So what does that mean in terms of really speed, reliability, and rider experience?
So still a really good, high quality rider experience, and I think part of what we saw in 2016 when we wanted to look at expanding Metrolink is we didn't really have this product, but now we're seeing this product across the country. You mentioned a project in Indianapolis, very parallel kind of idea, where we're expanding how transit works, but looking at alternatives that are a little bit more affordable for St. Louis.
And on that note, you know, we said Indy, KC has this. How is it working, and did y'all look at those cities to see if it would work here?
We have. We've looked at Indianapolis. As a matter of fact, my new chief operating officer comes from Minneapolis.
Oh, okay.
Which is an example of where they have the Gold Line up there. Very, very good bus rapid transit line that works for a very similar city in the Midwest.
Yeah, it's good to see those, you know, compare, because I know a lot of people are like, how is this going to work here? So how will this project impact everyday riders, people getting to work, school, medical appointments, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so we've seen a lot of success, for instance, with our larger equipment. We have on number 70 Grand, our number one bus line right now, a 60-foot bigger bus capacity. And what we've seen is the customers really love that bus. It's a very nice, much more modern amenities, interior, and we have those kind of amenities like Wi-Fi on bus and all those kind of things, where people really like the experience of getting to their job and to different destinations in St. Louis.
A little more comfortable of a ride. So I know you started with 5 possible routes and now you're down to 2. What makes these 2 stand out for y'all that they're the strongest options?
Well, what's really important when we're designing a system like this is being sure that we have input from the public. So we started with 5 and now we're down to 2. And what we need to hear from people is, what do they think of those? Because look, transit is about the fabric of our community and being sure that we're building that fabric and being sure that we are going out, soliciting the public and figuring out what works best. After all, this is how we build our city, and we need to look at those aspects and be sure that we're talking to people.
And in terms of that, I know you're looking for feedback. What do you hope to hear at these open houses and virtual meetings?
Right, so what we want to hear from people in these open houses is, how do they feel that transit can relate to them? What do they want to see in their rides and their stops? What are the parallel amenities, whether there's bicycle trails, sidewalks? This is about an interoperating transportation system of which buses are only a part of. Bicycles, how do you walk there? How does it work with parking, etc.? All of those things is how we build our communities and our neighborhoods.
How can people input their opinion? What are y'all looking for?
So, of course, we do have, like everybody else, we have a website, greenlinebrt.com. So please feel free to weigh in on that. And we have a virtual meeting, of course, on the 7th, just like everybody else in the Zoom era. So we have that. You can register and give your comments for the 7th, but also 2 public meetings on the 5th and 6th. From 7 to 8, there's information on that on our website.
And I know you just touched on it, but I think it's critical. Why is it so important that y'all are hearing from people that are using your services every day?
Yeah, because no matter what you really see, remember, even though Metrolink gets a lot of the attention, 70% of our ridership is on bus.
Oh, wow.
And these are people, 80% of which are going to work, right? So this is about the economy of St. Louis and how we keep St. Louis moving. Those people who are working in hospitals and grocery stores and so on, a lot of those fundamental people who are making St. Louis work, they're coming on Metro Transit.
So after these meetings, what are next steps? When could we actually see this become a reality in our city?
So no doubt after we make a selection on route, then we move into engineering and we price the system out and we figure out what we can do to compete for federal money. No matter what, I need to compete for federal funds. We have local funds, which is somewhere between 20 and 40% is local funding, but we have to go to DC and get funding for that. And so that's our next step, moving on the full funding grant agreement through the Federal Transit Administration.
I know this may be hard, and if you don't know this answer, totally fine. Do we have a year of when we could see this, or is that all dependent on the federal funds?
It is all dependent on those federal funds,
Yeah.
so appropriation and so on. But we've seen other projects successfully funded across the country. What you got to do is prime the transit pump. You need to get in and compete. I need to compete for those dollars we're sending to DC against Indianapolis, against Kansas City. We need to get in the game.
And this would be really big for our city in terms of just being a better place, right? To live and work and all that stuff.
Sure, look, we need to look at how do we want to see not our St. Louis of 1985, but our St. Louis of 2025, 2035 and beyond. What are the things that people are looking for? How do we want to build our neighborhoods? How do we want to change St. Louis so that it makes sense? I think transit is part of that solution.
Yeah, public transportation is huge. You mentioned Chicago, all those places. I mean, it's just easier to live in those cities. We appreciate you.
Of course.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you, Mercedes.
Good to see you.
Great to see you.